Hi, guys. This is Amy VanHoy, and I'm so excited to be here today with Brittainy Stephens, author of the Southern Lane Instagram. She has a beautiful home, beautifully curated Instagram, and I really wanted the opportunity to chat with her. Things that I hear so often from people are they want their home to look beautiful and they are intimidated, don't know where to start, or even as specific as things on the wall. They have empty walls and they want artwork for the walls and it's intimidating. What do I do? So I wanted to pick Brittany's brain to kind of get a feel and a sense for her tips, her tricks on how she creates beauty in her home. Brittany, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. So, before we kind of get into all your tips and tricks, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into design?
Yes. So I actually did not have my degree in interior design. I was actually a communications major. I thought about switching to interior design at one point, but just decided that it was just too narrow of a degree. And so ended up going with communications that way. So I graduated and I decided I didn't want to do interior design. I wouldn't be have such a limited degree. So I majored in communications and then ended up just starting my blog for as like a creative outlet and just loved it. I always loved interior design. My mom had incredible taste. You know, she still does. She has incredible taste, and I feel like just being around her, and she was always redecorating things. She was always, bring me to fabric stores and to antique stores. She always had beautiful magazines that I would like look through, and so I feel like just kind of being around her and just being around, all of that really influenced me and kind of influenced my taste and my style. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that that really played a part in giving me a love for interior design. And then I eventually got to a place where I was wanting a creative outlet and started my blog for fun. And here we are.
Very cool. Where would you say you find a lot of your inspiration today? You have such a beautiful home. Where do you get your inspiration?
Oh, thank you. Man, so many different places. There's a lot of accounts on Instagram that I follow, interior designers that I follow, influencers that I follow that I love their taste and, maybe how they did something in their house to achieve a certain look or just even the overall feel of a space that I see, on Pinterest or something like that, I think really I pull from so many different things. And so whether it be I really liked a fabric or I loved how they used, this color and paired it with this, or I love, how relaxing this room feels. And so I feel like I just pull from so many different things. I love to follow Sarah Bartholomew and Mark Sykes and Suzanne Kassler. And then I love influencer Megan Stokes. I feel like all of their styles I love and I pull a lot of inspiration from.
Okay. So when you're kind of pulling from lots of different places, like you said, how do you ensure that your home looks cohesive?
I think for me, when I was decorating the house that we're in right now, I think something that I did was just take it kind of like one piece at a time. Instead of trying to get everything all at once, I just kind of focused on building the room as I went. So focusing on, bigger pieces and kind of building off of that. Like in this room behind me, this blue sofa was the first thing that I got. I just loved the color. I thought it was, very subtle but fun. And so kind of built the room around that. And I love personally, I feel like usually find like a fabric. So, from a pillow and kind of pull the colors from that into other
Yeah.
pieces in my space. And so that's something for me that I usually do to kind of help be cohesive. So like, for example, the pillow that I chose is like this kind of multiple blue, multiple blues in it. And so I, from there, just kind of was like, okay, I'm just going to kind of build off of that. And I'm going to just kind of have this be like, different tones of blue. And so,
Yeah.
and then like in my family room, my pillow is like a floral print and then it's got greens and like a cornflower blue. And so from there, I kind of used that to build the room, and I went with like a cornflower blue chair and like a little green ottoman, and then
Mhm.
accessorized kind of in those color schemes too. And so for me, that's just been like a helpful way to help keep things cohesive, is just kind of starting with one thing. My pillows
Mhm.
usually have a lot of color and pattern and stuff, and then just kind of building from there. But
Mhm.
yeah, just one piece at a time is, which is nice, because then if you get something and you're like, oh my goodness, this just does not work, it's okay. It's just one piece. You can kind of try it out, see if it works, and kind of go from there.
I think that's really encouraging because sometimes we as the end user look at these beautifully curated photos that we see and we love to look at them, but it can be intimidating like, oh my goodness, I'm looking at a blank floor. I don't have artwork. I don't have style anywhere. And how do I even do this? So it's nice to hear that you truly go piece by piece and you've built your home up over time.
Yes, I mean, we've been in this house for I think 3 years now, and I'm still getting stuff for it. So it's definitely like a work in progress all the time. But I've just found that that's been the least intimidating and
Yeah.
the easiest way to go about it. Plus, too, it's like you want to find the right pieces for your space, and sometimes that just takes time. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, I just start with the bigger pieces and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. So speaking of things taking time and figuring out what you want, I know we've worked together before on artwork projects. And as an artist, I often hear people say, I have a blank wall or I want something for my space, but I don't know what I want. I don't even know how to begin. Do you have any tips for people that may find themselves in a similar situation?
Yes, I mean, I think for me, something that's just been worked for me is when I'm trying to figure out art. I look at like the room as a whole, and so like I said, it's usually one of the pieces that is kind of one of the last things that I tend to do. And for me, my home is very traditional, and so I love doing more like abstract modern art as kind of like the big art piece in the room, just to kind of balance it out with the more traditional furniture that I tend to gravitate towards. And so and what I love about abstract and modern art is just the fact that you are able to kind of bring in as much color or as little color as you want. So we worked on a piece in my entry, and my entry is very, the walls are neutral. There isn't a lot of color because there's no pillows or anything like that in there. It's like a runner, some lamps and stuff like that. So I really wanted to add more color. And so getting to work with you and getting to, create a unique piece for that space, I was able to incorporate more color. Whereas I know we also worked on one in my family room, and my family room kind of has a lot of color other places, like in a chair and an ottoman and pillows. And so I wanted something a little bit more neutral. And so we did just more, beiges and stuff like that in those pieces. And so that's kind of how I tend to decide art, is I just tend to see, okay, am I trying to add more color, or am I just trying to create a piece that just will kind of blend in a little bit more in the space? And so from
Mhm.
there, kind of decide how much color and what colors I want to use. And obviously, I pull the colors from like the rooms itself. So, blues, maybe that match like the runner, or like bringing
Mhm.
dark blue from like the lamp and stuff like that is kind of how I
Mhm.
also choose like the palette for it as
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I like when we were talking earlier about all these topics you mentioning just that you like to then incorporate maybe a little variety in your artwork. Maybe you have a big modern piece and then you're going to have maybe a landscape or a few traditional things where it's
well.
not the same kind of artwork all over the place.
Exactly. Because it's like, like I said, I tend to gravitate more towards the modern abstract type of art, but I don't want my whole room to be that way. So, like, for example, in my living room, I have like a bigger abstract piece, but then I have two like bird, like art print type things as well. And so, if I already have like a big modern abstract type piece, I tend to gravitate towards like the landscapes and stuff like that for smaller pieces on other walls, just to give it a
Yeah.
little bit of like variety and so forth.
Mhm. I think that's such a good point. And I like just the idea of how you want your whole room to kind of fit together and you're thinking through, do I want to have all my color and the eyes going towards the wall and that's like this big piece, or do I already have a lot of like exciting eye-catching furniture or other things, and I want my artwork to be there and enhance the room, but maybe not take center stage. Uh,
Exactly. Because I
yeah,
don't
I
want
think
it to be like competing, you know. I want everything to have, kind of its moment and so forth. So I don't want, my art to be competing with my pillows or, so
yeah,
forth. So, and
I
that's what's
think
so
that's
fun about
so
art is, and like what's so helpful about working with like you on commission pieces is
cool.
you're able to really make it your own and make it fit your space to a T. And I think that that can just be super helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a fun process, is getting to kind of help the client kind of really achieve their vision. And sometimes you may have something in your head or think I really need XYZ colors, or this I need it to be subdued but have these colors, whatever, and I'm looking around and I just can't find what I need
Yeah,
out there. So that's where obviously it can be nice sometimes to have the opportunity to commission work, because then you can truly get exactly what's in your head.
exactly, exactly. And it's like you said, it's you get the right balance of how much color you want in the room or in the art and so
Yeah.
forth. And I think like that can be very helpful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I like to, I think it's nice for people to know the idea of mixing things together. So maybe you have, same with your stuff in your things in your home, but you can have work that perhaps you invested a little more in financially, and then you can find some really cool prints or whatever and mix and match things and put them all together, and it can look really upscale when you have everything together. Or even putting something in a really nice frame, I think, can really
yes.
transform a piece as well.
Absolutely. In fact, I have like two pieces from Home Goods and I had them like kind of reframed and I feel like it really I don't know, really added an extra little touch to it and so forth.
Yeah,
And,
and
to
makes
pair
it really
both.
reasonable and affordable for someone. It's like approachable. Like, okay, I can go to Home Goods and pick out a nice frame and like up level this.
Exactly.
So, on the line of artwork, another thing I think would be really helpful for people is, how do you determine what size you need for a space? I think that can be another kind of ambiguous area, and hard to figure out. So, do you have any advice for, I have a big wall or a bunch of walls in my house? How do I know what size work to put on the wall?
Yes. So I think for me, something that's been helpful is, like I kind of was saying earlier, art is one of kind of more the last things that I get for a space. And so usually, like at that point, if there's like a piece of furniture that's going underneath it or so forth, like I'll know then the size of that and I'm a visual person, and so I'll just like tape it out with like painter's tape just to see, okay, does this look like it's going to overpower the piece of furniture? Is this going to, be too small? And same goes for like a large wall too. But, like I said, if it's like a dining room, you probably already have your table at that point. And when you put it, the painter's tape on a big wall, you can go, okay, is this going to overpower my table? And so whenever I have something like over a piece of furniture, I always want to make sure that there's room on either side. Um, not too much space, but enough space on either side so it doesn't look like it's, not proportionate
Yeah.
to the piece of furniture.
Hmm.
And then, so that's just something like for me, just kind of like a way that I just with like my eyes can kind of just tell.
Yeah.
And that's been helpful for me. And like I said, I'm a visual person. So taping it out, you get a real feel for, okay, is this going to overpower the piece? Is this too small for the piece? And kind of gives you an idea for size.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, especially like you said, if you're kind of getting your furniture pieces in first, you sort of can have that as your anchor. And
Exactly.
then the actual taping things up on the wall, I think is brilliant, because until you really see it, and for
Yes.
me, like saying 24 by 36, like I know what that is, but
Yeah.
the average person that doesn't deal in that every day is like, so
Yeah.
actually going in and measuring it, I think
Yes.
it's
And
a really good tip.
there's been times where like I will be like, oh yeah, that'll work for a space. That'll be the right size. And then it gets here. I'm like, okay, no, like that does not work the way that I thought it would. But if I just, taped it out, I would have recognized, oh, that's going to be
Yeah,
too small or that's going to be too big or,
yeah,
so forth. So,
totally. Good tip. So, lastly, since for the question of the day, so to speak, if someone were to say, I want to make my house more beautiful, more appealing, and you're just going to give them one quick, this is something you could do, you can implement, tomorrow, what would your advice be?
um, I would probably say, even though it's super tedious, I feel like the little knickknacks, the little, little styling pieces, I think in a space can really make a difference and really kind of take it to the next level. And that can be with art, just layering in. I think adding some layers to a space can really like just enhance it and really just make it feel really complete and inviting and warm. And so I think even though it's tedious and it's, you're looking for all these like little things, I do think just taking the time to do that will go a long way.
Okay. And piece at a time, right?
Piece at a time, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brittany. I really appreciate your time. I know you've got, lots of irons on the fire, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.